So determining the number of communication channels. So, the thing behind this is actually we need to know how many communication complexity of the communication when the number of participants increases in communication, like in a group. Okay, so the number of people involved is increases, the complexity is also increases. So there's a equation that you can use to calculate the number of communication channels. So it is n into n minus 1 divided by 2. N is the number of people participating in that communication. So if you see this, look at this picture. So, so you can see when there are two people involved in the communication, there is only one communication channel. Okay. So when there are 4 people involved, it increases. The complexity is very high when you compare with 1 or 2. So 2 or 3. So when there's 3 people, there are only 3. However, when 1 is increased, the number of communication channels increases with the high amount. Rather than 3, there's now 6. Okay. So you can use this formula to calculate the number of communication channels involved in the communication. So I think I have a few questions for you. So 5 people report to project manager. How many potential communication channels exist? Can you take the answer for this? Okay, so that's how the communication channels increase when the number of people increases in a team. So how can we manage stakeholders' expectations? So, so that is the next process in this communication management. So project managers must understand and work with various stakeholders. So we need to devise a way to identify and resolve these issues. So we can develop an expectations management matrix, which is one of the outputs of this process. Okay. So let's see what is expectations management matrix. So it's a document like this. So this is a sample expectations management matrix developed for a project. So there are measures of successes and there are expectations and guidelines to follow those expectations. So the first priorities in this project is for the time, if you see. So there's no any excuse for the completion date. So you have to do it on time. So every major deadline must be met and the schedule is very realistic. Okay. So since it is very realistic, you have to meet all the deadlines. So the guideline is actually the project sponsor and the program manager must be alerted if there are any issues that might affect meeting schedule goals. So that is the guideline. Okay. So to meet this, to achieve the success in time, to meet the expectations, we need to alert the project sponsor and the program manager if there are any issues. Okay, so that's the guideline. So likewise, so these communications are, prioritized here. So that's the first thing we need to do if there's something wrong. That's the main communication requirement in that particular matter. So likewise, you can see it is prioritized from numbers starting from 1. So that's very important to have a list, priority list like this to achieve those expectations of in the project. Okay. So next, So that's the managing stakeholders' expectations. So they are prioritized in this list. So other than this output or this method, there are many other methods available in PM book. So you can have a look at them. So what are the methods and tools, and also templates available for managing stakeholder expectations. So it's up to you to read on them and have a look at it, okay? And the next process is reporting performance. So in reporting performance, so we make reports. So in communication, it's really important to have the progress. Look at the progress in the previous months or during the years of the project. So there are different kinds of reports being developed. Mainly the status reports, progress reports, and forecasts are really important, because in these meetings, always one as a project manager need to look at the past and look at the current situation and look at the future. So those are the three main things a project manager need to look at in these situations. So a progress report would describe what the project team has accomplished during a certain period of time. So during the last 2 years, the progress. So during this time frame, we achieved this. During this time frame, we achieved this. So likewise, if you need to have a very clear picture of what you have done in a certain period of time, so this is really important, period of time, okay? So one should look at the progress report. And a status report, as the name implies, status, the current status of the project. It describes where the project stands at a specific point in time. So this is progress reports discuss about the period of time, and status reports discuss about specific point in time. Okay, and then about forecasts. Predict future project status and progress based on past information and trend. So you can use forecasts to predict the future status and progress. I think we looked at some of the measures you can include in a forecast type of report in post management. So how much more money do we need to complete? So likewise, you can predict the future project status and process based on past information and looking at the trends. So these are the main three types of reports used in reporting performance of a project. So you need to have very clear idea about the difference between status reports and the progress reports. Okay, so that you need to do. And these are the suggestions for improving project communications. So conflicts are actually very important in project management. You have to manage conflicts effectively. Okay, you have to develop better communication skills and between the team members, not only as a project manager. You have to take, highlight the importance of better communication in a team. So as a leader, if you communicate really well, the others also would follow your path. So that's important as a project manager as well as for the team members. Then you have to run effective meetings. Effective meetings means before you start the meeting for your group members, you have to look at the progress of the previous years and the current status, and then the future forecasts, okay? And you can use email and other technologies effectively, and you can use templates from project communications as well, okay? And as I told you, managing conflicts is really important because we deal with humans in this kind of situation. So, so this is a teamwork. So every member is different. If you see, some people like to work alone with independently, so that does not actually fit into a team environment. Okay, and then some people have different ideas, and then conflicts come into place. When two people are together, it's very different from where they are isolated. Okay, their ideas matter. If you you will experience this in your final year project as well. So you will actually in that situation, you will see some of your group members when you try to do something together. These ideas, different ideas come, and then the conflicts are created. Okay, so this managing conflicts is important. So because of that, there are methods introduced in this project management area to handle conflicts. Okay, so these are the main conflict handling modes defined: confrontation, compromise, smoothing, forcing or direct, withdrawal or avoid, and collaborating. So those are the main conflict management modes defined. So in confrontation, so I'll give you a brief idea about each of the conflict handling modes here, and then let's look at some figures to further understand this. Okay, and then you can apply for different case studies and check whether you have this idea of conflict handling each and every mode we discuss here. Okay, first one is a confrontation. So confrontation is directly faced to a conflict using a problem solving approach. So our main target is to solve the problem. So directly you face the conflict, you don't look at the conflict causing peoples, and you are trying to solve the problem. Okay? And compromising means use a give and take approach. So some person may have, two people may have different ideas. So it is like someone is giving and someone is taking. Okay. And smoothing means you are trying to smooth their conflict. You de-emphasize the areas of difference and emphasize areas of agreement. So you can see, you see in both of your ideas, what you are proposing is same also, although there are differences. So likewise, you are trying to smooth the conflict. And forcing and direct, it's a win-lose approach. Your idea as a project manager wins, okay? So if two people are proposing two technologies, okay, and you say, use this technology. So one wins and other loses, okay? And withdrawal avoid, so you have to retreat or withdraw from an actual or potential disagreement. So if there is any disagreement or conflict between two people, one person, you you don't talk about that more, you let the other person do whatever he wants, and you are not doing the, you are not progressing in that problem, however you are avoiding it. Do not let it happen, okay? And collaborating means you incorporate different ideas and then come into a consensus or agreement. You have this idea, we'll take some from this, some from my side and some from your side, and we'll come to a middle point, okay? So I need to understand this from this picture very well. So if you look at this competing, which is the goal is to win. So it is forcing and direct method. So it is quite uncooperative. Okay, the goal is to win. Collaborating method means your goal is to find a win-win solution. Okay. So decision makers will incorporate different viewpoints, and you are trying to come to a consensus. And compromising means you are finding a middle ground for each and every person. So you're not taking one side, and you are not collaborating. I mean, it's not a win-win situation. It's something in the middle. Okay. Always, it's justice for all. Okay. Avoiding. The goal is we are delaying things to avoid this conflict. So I'm not going to discuss that matter any far with him. Okay, so I'm avoiding the situation. And accommodating. The goal is to yield. So we are accommodating. It is a very cooperative approach, which you are trying to satisfy others' concerns. And here, if you look at this side, these competing and collaborating are assertive. So you attempt to satisfy own concerns rather than the others. Okay. And in this cartoon also you can see in compromising, no one is given a favor, no one is favored. So you are dividing, cutting the pizza into equal slices. And in competing, you know one would win and the others would not win. So it is competing. And avoiding, you are avoiding the attack, you are delaying until the other one goes and does whatever. In collaboration, it is working together and find a solution, and accommodating, you are giving chance for the other one also to come and discuss the matter. Okay, conflicts handling, these are the conflicts handling modes. So can you please jot down these handling modes, because I will be going to a question next. So I have a problem for you to answer. So you have to select which mode you applied in this case study. It's a small case study. What you have to do is you have to select one of these modes from this list, which would be matching for the given situation. Okay, so I want you to write down these conflict handling modes, and then let's go to the problem. Okay. Or else I will show you the problem and then come back to this. Okay, so this is the problem. So this is the small case study. So you have to identify from the modes we discussed so far, which mode is applied here. Okay, so Natasha and Sampath are team members of a software project. Natasha and Sampath are arguing about which approach to take with the project. Natasha makes some good points, but Sampath gets frustrated and storms out of the room. Explain the conflict handling solution technique. Uh, so this is technique Sampath demonstrates. Okay, there should be a correction here. Explain the conflict handling solution technique Sampath demonstrate. So what is that? Can you send it? Can one of you tell me or either send it with chat? Because I can't. Yeah, one has sent me that it is avoiding. So it is actually, one can say it is avoiding. However, whatever the conflict solution you mention here, you have to give the reasons as well. Okay? If you have different answers, you should have proper logic reason behind that. Okay? It is withdrawal avoiding, treat it to withdraw from an actual or potential disagreement. Okay. Like it is quite uncooperative action, like avoiding or competing. It is not competing because no one wins, so it should be avoiding. Okay, the conflicts are often they often produces important results. So if you, I mean, sometimes you may have these conflicts with maybe your father or your brother or your mother or one of your friends. Always these conflicts would result in new ideas. Okay, if you look at them, I mean that conflict may. I mean, because of that conflicts, your next steps would may have affected and changed. Okay, you may have thought of a new way of doing things. Okay. So always conflicts can be good rather than it can be bad. Okay. However, task related conflicts are good. However, emotional conflicts are not good. Okay. So that would depress the team members. So conflicts often produces important results such as new ideas, better alternatives, and motivation to work harder and more collaboratively. So it's better to develop good communication skills that is well understood by the software company currently. However, some of the formal degree programs for IT professionals neglect this importance of speaking, writing, and listening. So it is, I mean, we have given you some exposure to English from these English courses. You have to follow them very well. And also, when we give you a chance to do a presentation, so even the online, you should do it in the best way you can. Okay, just download something from the internet and just reading it. It's not communication. Okay, you have to turn your camera on and use a very nicely created presentation with new technology, with animations and videos, and I mean using other softwares. You should try to do it in an innovative way, and you are learning things by doing those things. Okay. So as organizations become more global, they realize that they must invest in ways to improve communication. So if you look at these software companies, most of the companies have their sister companies in other countries. Okay, like IFS, WSO2, they have connections with the other countries. And if you if you get a position there, sometimes you may have to go to those countries to meet some of the stakeholders of your particular projects. Okay, so it's really important to improve your communication skills when you become a software engineer. So it takes leadership to improve communication. Always leader needs to guide the members to improve the communication. So running effective meetings is another important thing. So when you are running effective what is the mean of effectiveness in the meeting? So you have to first define why, as a project manager, I am calling this meeting. Okay. Otherwise, you'll come to the meeting and you have many ideas in your head to discuss about, and you are not fulfilling even one. Okay. You will discuss about that and then turn into the other one like one. However, if you have a plan where you can define the purpose and intent of the meeting, so it will be really successful because you have a scope and you have to get the result outcome from this particular meeting. So you can run that meeting and get the outcome. Okay? And you have to determine who should attend the meeting. So you don't need to invite all of your team members. You can invite the sub-teams which are responsible for the particular purposes. And you can provide an agenda to participants before the meeting. So these are the things we are going to discuss about, be ready. So otherwise, you may surprise your team members by discussing different things. So it would not be successful because the members are not very well prepared for the meeting. So this, if you list down a certain matter you are going to discuss about, then the others would prepare for the particular matter, to discuss a particular matter with some graphs and the progress of particular matter. Okay. So agenda is a very important thing. And you can prepare handouts and visual aids to ahead of time to use in that meeting, and run the meeting professionally and build relationships among the people. Using email, instant messaging, and collaborative tools, if you can use them effectively. But you have to think about before trying to communicate something with your team. You have to select which communication media I'm going to use. Whether I'm going to hold a meeting, whether I'm just using an email or talking using your mobile. Okay. Make sure that email, instant messaging, or collaborative tools are an appropriate medium for what you want to communicate. And when you are sending emails, don't send to all. So it's the easiest thing you can do, isn't it? However, as a project manager, you should be responsible and you should identify the particular set of employees who are responsible for that. Otherwise, when you send each and every email you get to everyone, so what would happen actually, the others would not take them into very much consideration, okay? And you have to use meaningful, attractive subject lines, like in an email, you write the subject of the email. So you have to use meaningful subjects which would depict what the information in the email is about, okay? And when you have different things to talk about, And in an email, it's better to limit one email to one matter, okay? And write clearly and concisely, and authorize the right people to share and edit your collaborative documents. So, you know, we use these new tools like Google Sheets and these Google documents. So they are shareable. So when if you're sharing some documents, so when you work in team, always these shareable documents and shareable codes are really important, and you use them, because in a team environment, when one needs to look at the other's work, and if one needs to update or continue with the other's works, you have to use some shareable media. Okay, so there you need to make sure, when there are many people in your team, you need to authorize the right people to share and edit. Whether you are giving the role to read or edit your document, you have to be responsible, okay? You have only to authorize to the correct people to edit your documents. And there are collaborative tools, as I told you. So these are the Google Docs and Google Sheets, allow the users to create, share, and edit documents. And SharePoint portal, which would allow users to create custom websites to access documents. An application is stored in a shared device. And the wiki is also a website designed to enable anyone to contribute or modify web page content. So like this, there are collaborative tools. And look at other collaborative tools, new collaborative tools you can use, like Padlet. So there are many if you look at the web. Okay. And this is a summary of things we discussed so far. The goal of project communication management, we discussed about that. So it is actually to ensure timely and appropriate generation, collection, dissemination, storage, and disposition of project information. And these are the main processes we discussed, okay? And these questions we went through, so you can do these 2 questions as well. Not now. I think I need to cover up another topic also today, so let's move to that topic. So there are some questions. These 2 will, this is about PERT method. So let's discuss that topic and come back to this later, okay? Okay, so this is something different from communication management. So this is related with project time management. So in time management, we discussed methods of scheduling, isn't it? Scheduling these activities one after the other, and then we looked at critical path and time durations. So likewise, we discussed about some methods which we can use for scheduling, looking at the at the end to calculate the number of days required for a particular task. Okay. So PERT method is also a similar kind of thing which can be used in scheduling in special circumstances. So so it is actually valid for the projects which has associated uncertainty, like you know, several sub-module of a project. Maybe you don't know, it is uncertain that we could do it within certain amount of time. Okay. However, we may have very rough measures, like if everything goes correctly, you may be able to do it within 2 days. And if everything goes wrong, you may get at least 30 days. And if generally, on average, you will be able to do it within 15 days. Okay. So like that, you have a very rough measurement about the activity durations, but most of the time it is very uncertain. So it's difficult to use those traditional standard methods which we used or which we discussed previously in time management. That normal way of drawing the diagram and putting the durations, because there's uncertainty associated with the duration of the particular activities. Okay, so this is a kind of solution you can give in those particular uncertain situations. So a project duration is associated with the high degree of uncertainty. That's why we are doing this kind of thing. Okay. And PERT uses probabilities time estimates, and these duration estimates are based on optimistic, most likely, and pessimistic. So if everything goes, if everything is okay, so you can have optimistic time measure. Okay. So like in 2 days, you can do this. And a pessimistic estimate, if everything goes wrong, we may need at least 30 days to do the activity. We can do it within 2 days in optimistic time frame. Okay, and most likely time is on average. If you look at the past activity durations, we have spent at least 15 days on that. Okay, so that is most likely activity duration. So these are called 3-point estimates. For an activity, the duration, I mean, if it's very uncertain, we can have, look at these 3 measures. Optimistic, which means that if everything goes correct, what would be the activity duration? And pessimistic, if everything is not correct, I mean, everything bad happens. So what amount of maximum time you may need? So it may be not maximum actually. If everything goes wrong, we may need more time. So we may need at least 30 days. Okay, so likewise, so that is pessimistic. So most of the things goes wrong, and most likely is the average time required. Okay, so with having these 3 measures for a particular activity, we can come for a particular average value for the activity duration. So it is defined in PERT method by this equation, T estimated. So this is T, this T implies time duration of the activity, which is very uncertain. Okay, we have these 3 measures. Okay, 3-point estimates: optimistic, most likely, and pessimistic. So A is the optimistic time plus 4 times most likely time plus pessimistic time divided by the weights. Sum of weights. This weight of this first term is 1, and in the second term the weight is 4, and in the third term the weight is again 1. Okay, 1 plus 4 plus 1, it is 6. So that's why we divide this by 6. So this is a weighted average. Okay, so more weight is given to the most likely time. The other 2 are added, but more weight is given to the most likely time, and it is divided by 6. And at the end, you get the number of days required. So optimistic time is 8 days in this example, and most likely time is 10 days, and pessimistic time is 24 days. So when you are given with these 3 measures, one can come to a PERT weighted average value for this particular activity as 12 days after you apply this formula. So therefore, you would use 12 on the network diagram instead of 10 when using PERT for the above example. So now, let me get my pen. So now you know when you are scheduling, first you look at the dependencies of the activities and then you draw the activities, isn't it? You draw the activities like this one after the other. So, so like this, you indicate the activities or nodes. So this is the dependability. So this is the name of the activity and B here, okay? So here you have to mention the duration. So the problem in this problem we discussed so far is, so the duration is very uncertain. So we can't put the duration here because we have 3 estimates. We have the optimistic time, pessimistic time, and most likely time. Because the duration which we can put here is very uncertain. So using this PERT formula, one can calculate a measure. Okay? Instead of these 3, we can use 12, which is the PERT weighted average value. So for each and every activity, you can calculate the activity duration now using this formula. So after that, you can develop the network, schedule the activities using a network. And then you can find the critical path, and let's see after that, what can you do. So in this method, I think now, up to now, you have, you can develop the network diagram. So that is clear until that point, isn't it? So let's see after that how we can determine these, the other values associated. How can you look at the probability of finishing this project within a given time frame, okay? So in PERT method, there are defined formulas for the particular measurements, like how many days you require to measure this, okay? So here, in this PERT method, there are defined equations to look at the probability of finishing a particular project in a given time frame. So let's look at how these equations are defined and what are the equations, okay? So looking at this uncertainty, it assumes that looking at this uncertainty in PERT method, PERT method assumes that activity duration, each activity duration has a range that statistically follow a beta distribution, okay? And so depending on that, variability, looking at the variability in the activity time estimate is approximated by the equation given here. So, so what is the variability? I think statistics you studies that, isn't it? So the variability is how much it varies around the mean of the duration. So the standard deviation is a measure of variability. So is a kind of measure of variability. So it is defined, standard deviation of T is defined as B minus A divided by 6. Okay. So, so this is the standard deviation of an activity. Okay. So one of the activities. So how can I define the standard deviation of a project or the variability? So it is defined, it can be defined as sigma, so altogether you get sigma squared TE and get the square root of that. Okay. So what is this addition? So you are adding all these activities, standard deviation. So what are the activities you are going to add together? For the project, it matters only the activities in the critical path, isn't it? So when you want to look at the schedule of a project, in the schedule, to calculate the amount of time required to finish the project, we consider the activities on the critical path. Okay. Here also, to get the standard deviation of the project, we consider only the standard deviation of activities on the critical path. Okay, so that is really important. The sum includes only activities on the critical path. Okay. So now, as I told you, you can draw the activities, and then you can draw the network diagram, and then identify what is the critical path, and then what are the activities on the critical path. So after identify the activities, we can for only the activities on the critical path, you can calculate this and get the sum of all those values which the activities are on the critical path, and get the square root of that. Okay. And if one need to calculate the probability of completing the project in a particular given time period, they can use this formula. Okay. So usually the probability of finishing the project in TS time. Okay, that's the schedule. T is the critical path duration. So since these activities duration is very uncertain, one can use this formula to calculate the probability of finishing the project within TS days. Okay, T is the critical path duration. Since it's uncertain, we are not sure we'll be able to finish this project within T time. Okay, so because of that, this formula can be used to calculate the probability of finishing this time period, this project within TS days or TS weeks. Okay. So let's have a look at the example, so then you will understand this properly. So this is the method to follow in any problem. For each activity, 3-point estimates are given. Using these three measures, calculate the weighted average of each activity duration. So you can use that when you are given 3-point estimates. What is the formula I will use? This for each activity, 3-point estimates are given. So you can calculate the weighted average for duration. Okay. And then you can draw the network diagram using the calculated weighted average, and then find the activities on critical path. So using this weighted average, one can draw the diagram, and then you can find the critical path. And then you can calculate critical path duration, and then calculate standard deviation of the project. How can you calculate the standard deviation? Using this formula. Okay. You get the standard deviation of activities only on the critical path and get the summation of those activities and the standard deviation. And then using the formula for Z, you can calculate the probability of meeting scheduled duration. So once you have the Z value, you have to use a statistical table to find the probability. I think you know about that, isn't it? Basic statistics. I think it's in mathematics syllabus. So there's an example given. So I'll quickly go through this and then maybe we can group you and then you can do a real activity, okay? So A is 17, M is 29, B is 47 for activity A. So these are the 3-point estimates, optimistic time, pessimistic time and most likely time, okay? So A plus 4 times 29 plus 47 divided by 6 gives you TE value. Again, A plus 4 times M plus B divided by 6 give you TE value. And then you have to get the square of those values. So that is taken for the easiness of the next steps. Okay. So this is actually the TE value. You will draw it, draw on the network diagram. So after calculating TE, you will get these values. And then this value is required to calculate the standard deviation. So that's why it is taken here. So you can draw the network diagram. Okay. Now can you draw the network diagram using these activities and predecessors? And let me know what are the activities on critical path. Now you have TE values and you have activities and their dependencies given by these two columns. And then you can use duration as TE for each activity. Now can you draw it and let me know what is the what are the activities on the critical path, because we need that to calculate the standard deviation of the project duration. So after drawing the activity or node diagram, you will identify this A, B, D, and F as the activities on the critical path. So, so how can one calculate the probability of project completion time? So in this particular example, what's the probability project is completed before scheduled time of 67 units? So what's the probability of finishing the project before 67 days? So that can be calculated using this formula. Now, since you have drawn the network diagram, you can calculate the TE value. Okay, you just can add the durations of these activities. Is 30 plus 13 plus 16 plus 5. Okay. So then 67 is the scheduled time. So if that is our scheduled time, so this is the critical path duration, and this is the square root of sum of the sigma values of the activities on the critical path. So that comes as 25 plus 9 plus 1 plus 1. And get the square root of that, 36. Square root is 6, and you divide, you get Z value as 0.5. Now we need the statistical table. So this is the Z values and associated probabilities in statistics. So this value is 0.5. So which is in middle of these two values. Okay. It is in the middle. So you can add these two and divide it and get the answer. The probability is 0.69. So according to this formula, one can calculate probability of finishing this project within 67 days. Okay. So we know this is an uncertain project. So we have a rough measure of the schedule or the critical path duration. So now what we can do with this formula is actually we can have a look at the probability of finishing of a given time period. Okay, if you want to check the probability of finishing this project within certain time, certain days, you can use this formula. Okay. So this again, same application. Instead of 67, we have 60 here. So what's the probability of finishing the project is 60 days. Okay, we just apply change 60 because previous example also the other things we discussed, and you get minus 67 again from these Z values and probabilities. You can calculate the probability. So the probability of finishing with 67 days is higher than probability of finishing the same project with 60 days. So in this particular problem, you can see TE is given for each activities and dependencies are given. Now can you, I will divide you into groups. Okay, and then you can do this in a group, and because you need to practice this, you can use Excel sheet, but you don't need T is given. No? You can just draw the network diagram and then identify the critical path and continue. Okay, I'll stop the share for now. Can you write down this table? You don't need to write the description. Just write the activity ID, predecessor, TE, and variance. Okay. Once you do this as a group work, so I will stop the recording.